Hey guys, hi, welcome to Tech Wednesday. I'm Naomi. I work for Entrepreneurs for the Future, which is part of Innovation Birmingham, which is where we are today. The Entrepreneurs for the Future, or InfraF as the cool guys to say, is a tech incubator. So anyone who's a startup in technology industry, we provide a free 9-month program for them. Some of you in here tonight, so that's great. If you want to know any more about that, or you want to have a look around to the things which are just down where we were having drinks, just come and find me at the end. I'm happy to talk to you about that. So first things first, health and safety. Got to get that out of the way. We don't have a scheduled fire alarm or anything tonight, so if the fire alarm does go off, there is a fire, and we need to get out. So there is a door there for us at the front. Anyone who's back, it's probably best to go back out that way and around. So that's fine. Have we got any new people? People have never been here before. I've been to Tech Wednesday. Oh wow. Hi, welcome. Great to have you all here. So I'll just explain a little bit about how the evening's going to pan out. I'm going to shut up in a minute, but we've got hopefully 3 speakers. We're still waiting for one to turn up, but that's fine. And they're gonna just speak for about 10 minutes or so about what they're doing, what they're up to, and then we will have time for question and answers after each speaker. So do try and have a think about what is anything you want to know during the talks. Then what's going to happen is what we're going to have an opportunity for maybe 2 or 3 people here, depending on time, to kind of stand up and give a 1-minute pitch about yourself. Why are you here? What are you looking to achieve? Who do you want to talk to afterwards in the networking? Bish bash bosh, and then so whoever's got their hand up first at the end can have the opportunity to do that. Just quickly, as well as the incubator that I was talking about, Innovation Birmingham actually offer a membership. So if you're not necessarily very, very tech, or you're not looking for mentoring, or you're not looking for that kind of thing, but you still would like to be part of the community, still part of this kind of scene that we've got going on here, you can join the campus membership. There are flyers on your seats about that. And again, I'm happy to talk to you about that at the end if you want to. So, without further ado, let me introduce Gary, who's going to be talking to us about the Skills Funding Agency. Gary.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Comes to the end. I'm actually not going to speak a lot about the Skills Funding Agency because it's quite dry. What I am going to speak about is what we've been doing at the Skills Funding Agency around creating minimal viable services. And just to put it into context, I work as part of government, and we deliver apprenticeships. So we run apprenticeships, and we deliver IT systems for apprenticeships. We also run National Career Service. We very much into learning, and we fund colleges. So it's very much about skills, funding, learning. We report into business innovation and skills, and we're in collaboration with the Government Digital Service, because what I do is I run one of the 25 exemplar projects. And the exemplar projects are all about creating really good digital services. Well, we're trying to anyway. Tomorrow I need to go down to the Government Digital Service to be assessed so that my project can go into live service. Now, as part of that whole process, what we do is we create what we call minimal viable services. And what this is we put out bare bones IT systems, and we iterate them quite quickly in conjunction with our users. So we do lots and lots of user testing. And what the digital services, government digital service is trying to do is they're trying to look at user needs, so end user needs, and push policy depending on the user needs. So you might have seen some of these sites. Now, I'm not saying they're particularly good because these are the ones that are quite old. The apprenticeship, this is very inspirational, this site, so it's all about drawing in young people, talking to them about what apprenticeships is about. The National Career Service, that's quite corporate, quite governmenty, but it's all about, you know, you want advice on interview skills, you want to find a course, you want face-to-face help through a careers advisor. So we put services online to help people into learning. Now, the apprenticeship site, very different to a lot of government transactions that are being delivered. So a lot of government transactions, they're very linear. It's all about doing your tax online, driving license online. So you would go through this transactional phase. With apprenticeships, there's a big inspirational piece that we need to do first to try and draw people into your digital service, and then they can find an apprenticeship and they can apply and submit. So what I'm looking at is the overall end-to-end process. So creating digital services so good that people prefer to use them. So this is the Government Digital Services mantra. It's all about user needs. So what we've done as part of the Find an Apprenticeship is we've gone out, we've spoken to our users, we've done lots of persona work, so we've looked at what our users want, so we drive out user needs. We then look at how do we meet those user needs through digital services, so it's all about quality of service. So they have what is called a digital by default service manual. So these are standards that my project needs to adhere to, so it's everything from assisted digital, so these are people who are teaching you how to use your digital services. It's all about technology, using flexible technologies which allows you to continuously improve your services. It's also about being an empowered service manager, so I can make changes as and when I need to based on user needs. So it's a very different way of working in government. And continuous delivery. I need to continuously improve my service, so I'm constantly making iterations. We've been in service now for about 3 months. We've had something like 150,000 applications through our system. And we've made something like 30 different iterations on that site. So again, in the old service, I think we had about 2 releases per year on the old site. So it's not very flexible. You can't react to user needs. So this is the old way. What we used to do in government, we used to capture requirements. We had a big functional spec, so it would be like a 150-page document. We would throw that over to a supplier and say, develop that. And then a year later, we would launch a product. The user needs was very much an afterthought. So users would say, well, that's not what we wanted. Very hard to change that then, because you've got to go through that whole process again. That's what was referred to as a waterfall process. What we've done now is we're using more of an agile way of working, so we've chunked it up into phases. So we will have a discovery phase. So that's all about learning about your users, doing persona work, driving out user needs, looking at what technology you should use, so making it very, very flexible, and also looking at how you continuously improve your service. So the best way to build an effective digital service is to start small and iterate wildly. So this is all about putting out the bare bones of a service. So although we do go through a structured process, we put out a very sort of like minimal service. And what we did on Find an Apprenticeship was just put out search functionality with 2 boxes, and then we're working with our users to iterate that and build it up. So this is the process, which is very simple. So you would look at your user needs, you would build, so that's all around coding, you would measure, so we're constantly measuring, whether that's user satisfaction data, that's KPI data, that's data from web analytics, web trends, whatever you use. You learn, and then you start again, and you keep doing that process. And we work in 2-week sprints, so we can keep iterating that product. These are our users. So 4 of our users, and you can see that each of our users have a distinct set of user needs. and we're constantly referring back to these personas, we're constantly referring back to our user needs. And what we do is we come over to Birmingham every Tuesday night, and we are testing with our users. We do 5 a week, and I think up to now we've done about 150 hours of user testing. This is what it looks like. So it's quite a simple service. So we've started, we're only 3 months in, so we intend to iterate this service. We're in public beta. We've had 30 releases now since I did this presentation. 40% of our users use mobile, so we've had to ensure that actually people can submit applications through our mobile, because it's a young audience, predominantly 16 to 24, so they do predominantly use mobile devices. And this is a bit of a view on user satisfaction. So you can see that when we first launched, our user satisfaction wasn't great because it was a minimal viable service, and people said, well, I would have thought it would have more than this. And we've iterated. These are our major releases. We've only done 30. These are the major releases. You can see that user satisfaction has gone up. The blue is non-candidates. This is candidates. NVS matters. So whether you're a government, whether you're a business startup, it's all about getting the right team in place, using the right flexible technology and traction, making sure that people are coming to your service. Fail fast, learn fast. So just put something out there. What we've learned is you put something out there, you work with your users, and then you iterate. You keep going back to your users. You keep asking them what they want. Is it working? You look at your web analytics, and you keep looking at that, and every 2 weeks we are releasing. And this is a quote from somebody who is starting their own business. In the future, I'll focus on getting an NVS into our customers' hands as early as possible, and more importantly, I'll solicit real hard feedback from them. We didn't do this, and it distorted our view of reality. So this is somebody who didn't look at their users, they didn't keep going back to their users, so it wasn't very user-centric, so their business didn't succeed. Now, I do have a digital team. I've got about 30 people who work under me, but actually we're recruiting all the time. We're looking for developers, we're looking for scrum masters, we're looking for business analysts, we're looking for delivery managers. So if anyone okay, right, okay. So if anyone wants to contact me, if anyone's more interested in what we're doing in the Skills Funding Agency, or around apprenticeships or National Career Service or any other area of our business, you can contact me. Okay. Are there any questions?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. If you wouldn't mind just waiting for the microphone to come to you so that we can all hear you, that'd be great.
Hi, yeah. I just wonder what your thoughts were with regards to releasing a minimal viable proposition. Okay, and you showed in this, the chart there that you had quite poor satisfaction and the impact on users not returning because it was so poor, and that was their first impression. Just wondered if you had any thoughts around that.
Yeah, we've had to do a lot of education. So what we've done is we coupled up the minimal viable service with blogs to allow people to know that this is beta. Now, one of the learnings that came out from the government digital services, people don't really understand beta. What is a beta service? So what we need to do is make it a bit more prominent to say, actually, we will all be continuously improving this service. Do come back, because there'll be more. They will need to come back when we switch off the old service, but we are obviously in competition with other job sites, so we need to make sure it's a credible proposition for people. But we are continuously improving with our users.
Did you do a bit of a light touch launch and do it to a kind of a small community first? And
very much so, because it was beta and public beta. We're sort of running the new site and the old site in parallel. And what we're doing is we've got a channel shift strategy. So we're teasing people over to the new service. So that if they didn't find it was the service that they wanted first time, again, we'll attempt to bring them over, so we've got more of a proposition for them. So it's a bit like a tap, we can turn it on and off. But we wanted to test the service. We wanted to make sure we had the right support in place. We wanted to make sure it met the user's needs.
Hi, my name is Radu. I was just wondering if you can recommend some tools that you're using for your tests, like A/B tests and things like that.
Well, we do a lot of lab testing. So we use, I don't know if I should say this, but we use the Custard Factory. I saw that you've got labs here.
Too late.
But yeah, so what we're doing, we do lots of lab testing. We do lots of, the user researcher who works for me goes out and talks to intermediaries, so it's careers advisors, and people who are working with the apprentices. So we've got a feedback avenue there. We've got the lab testing where we do probably 5 people a week, where we are sitting down with them and we are just walking through the system with them and looking at what works well, what doesn't work well. There's a wider, I mean, GDS always talk about user research, and the user researcher for them is somebody, that button there to that button there, when actually there's a whole user experience piece where you're looking at personas, you're looking at market segmentation, you're driving out needs. So we're constantly matching, you know, that experience there with what the user needs are. We do A/B testing. We do that. We test different concepts. We do guerrilla testing. I've got somebody who works for me and we're trying to engage with employers at the moment. The best way to do that is just go and knock on the doors and try out little prototypes. Good way of doing that obviously is on the train, and it sounds a bit like, you know, you're harassing people, but people are on the train, they haven't got a lot to do.
You can't escape.
If you sit down with them, they usually give you feedback on your system, whether it's just a prototype or whether it's just a drawing or a wireframe. It's a really good way of getting feedback on your services.
Yeah, thank you.
We've got time for one more question for James.
Without going into too much detail, on the release line graphs that you had, there was the non-candidate blue line at the bottom. At the very start, you made a release and then had a big drop-off in satisfaction. One of those, do you recall what that was? Was it a mistake development-wise, testing-wise, or?
No, it was, we have an intended target audience, which is end users. So these are candidates who are potential apprentices. A big audience for us, which we're using the old system, are intermediaries. So these are careers advisors, providers. Because they've spent 5 years getting used to the old, very clunky system, although it's a bit like an old friend. You know, it's annoying, but they've got used to it, and it's taken them 5 years to get used to using it. We release something which hasn't got all of those bells and whistles on it, and you can imagine all of a sudden they say, well, this isn't fit for purpose, this isn't meeting my needs. Well, actually, the end users, the candidates, were flying through the system, they really liked it, and the positive feedback will come back from them. But what we then did, we then worked with the careers advisors to look at, okay, well, how can we satisfy your needs as well? So they wanted more browse functionality, you know, and more stuff around the different sectors where they could get an apprenticeship in and other bits. So we've got more than just one target audience, which are end users and candidates 16 to 24s. We've also got the careers advisors and providers. So we're working a lot more with them to put more functionality into the system.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Well,
Okay.
thank you, Gary.
No worries.
I'm going to make sure all these slides, we're going to use SlideShare, so you're going to have Gary's details. If you do want to get in touch with him, I'll send that round to everybody tomorrow. So, yeah, thanks
Okay.
for that.
No worries.
Cheers. Next up, we have Asaf, who is currently on the incubator. He's been with us for about 6 months now with Secret Cop. So, there you go.
Thank you. Welcome everybody. My name is Asaf Khan. Can everyone hear me at the back?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, I'm the founder of Secret Cop Limited. which is what I want to do today, was just share some of the journey so far and how we got here and why we went on this journey in the first place. First of all, what is Secret Cop? Well, essentially, it's an early malware detection and cleanup service, and it's antivirus aimed specifically for the UK SME market. So your site's got hacked, it's got malware on it. The system aims to detect and clean. That's the service essentially. It's meant to provide an economical security, reputation and digital business continuity for the SME market, which otherwise is complex, misunderstood and costly. In a sentence, Secret Cop aims to replace the fear factor of being hacked with an assured process. Well, how did we get here? Well, for the last 12 years, I've actually been running a web design and marketing agency, Wowzone Limited. And essentially what had happened was about 4 years ago, we started noticing that a couple of our client sites were hacked, low-level hacking, opportunist hacking. Well, at the time, it was simply a case of, well, okay, it's happened, let's deal with it, let's clean up the website and move on. Well, over the next few months, the occurrence grew, and it kept growing. And it was new, because being in the agency for 12 years, I never saw this kind of uptake on the level of hacking that was being done. And what this done to us as an agency is that you can imagine clients were not inclined to pay extra money for cleanup because of lack of education on what is hacking. They thought if you pay for support, it should cover it. Whereas hacking is a specialist service in itself. So what we decided to do, it led to a lot of frustration, a lot of eat up of our time. So essentially, we decided to develop an in-house solution. At the time, it was not meant to be for anyone external, just in-house to try and automate some of the processes that was costing us many, many man hours. And that's led to Secret Cop. It's been, well, nearly 3 years in development, officially formed as a limited status own separate company back in 2014, July. March this year was our soft launch. So it's only a few days old at the moment. In our first month, we've already seen 15 different companies sign up to it, but I must state that most of these companies were on beta trials prior, and they've actually decided to go for the paid version. So, but we want to keep it small for a number of reasons, for scalability and for testing purposes as we move forward. Now, I'm not going to read through all this, but essentially this was just some statistics saying, you know, the demand for not just Secret Cop Limited, but essentially for anti-hacking services for the SME market. Google at the moment is blacklisting at least 9,500 websites on a daily basis, which could be as a result of hacking, as well as 30,000 sites and websites are compromised daily. Without going into further detail, what must be understood and what we realized many years ago is this is not going to stop. This is going to increase. It's just going to get worse, unfortunately. But then why the SME market? Why not corporates? Why not any other market? Well, at the moment, the SME market is growing. It's actually it's being fueled quite a bit. With every SME, the 9 times out of 10 chances that they will have a site. There are exceptions, but majority will have a site. So that growth will happen. But what has an SME? What problems do they face? They face a different problem when they're hacked, as opposed to a corporate problem. The problem they have is obviously lack of cyber expertise. Agencies that are dealing with such clients are unable to allocate resource and fix security problems in a speed that they want to. Support levels vary, and remediation fees can be very expensive depending upon the damage caused by the level of hacking that's being done. Trouble getting in contact with suppliers. The amount of stories I've heard is, my site's hacked, I don't know, my developer's not sure what to do. How do I get this fixed quickly? And cleanup may not include hardening advice, which leads to repeat compromises. The solution is why we came with the SME, which is early malware hacking detection. This is one of the core benefits. Secret Cop at this stage does not prevent hacking. It detects hacking. This is a fundamental difference. We're moving on to certain other factors which will in the future go on there. The problem we've got is, if your site is detected by our systems, it will shortly be picked up by Google and other search engines. They will then blacklist you, and your reputation then stands at risk. You must, I don't know where some of you have seen where you go to a site and a sign comes up, this site may be compromised. Some people have that. Facebook have introduced that. Google's already doing that. So that has a real damage on anyone's reputation. Single fee. We work on a single fee, not on a per instance basis. And the cleanup that we do includes website hardening advice. And above all, and this sentence will be clarified in the next slide, affordable with an under-the-radar renewal criteria. I'll explain that in a second. What I'd like to do is, I just went over it. This is a price point, and this will be a question for some of you. Did we get this right? Now, what we said was, for one website, we're charging, or what we aim to charge is £97 ex-VAT per annum. That includes every 24 hours detection, year-round, unlimited cleanup. So if you get hacked twice, 3 times, 4 times, 10 times, it's a one single payment. And then we've got the other sides, which is some companies have up to 3 sites and up to 6 sites, and then there's other custom. One of the points I'd like, if anyone would like to give me an answer after the end is, did we get this right? Are we too expensive? Is there price elasticity? Have I gone too far? Have I too cheap? Where does it stand? I would appreciate any feedback that you may have on this point. Also, we're looking at the concept of white label versus branded. So there may be agencies out there who will say, yes, I like such a service. It will free up my developers' time, where we can effectively have a service that you can provide. Sometimes they want white label. We want to brand it as our own service. Whereas internally with my team, we're having an ongoing argument. Should we be offering white label? My personal opinion, no. I want it branded. However, I've got people differing in their opinions. So if anyone's got an opinion on that, that would be great to hear as well. Would you purchase Secret Pop? Make the following assumptions. The assumptions are that the prices that I've stated are correct, and the service that I've stated is correct. Well, don't assume it is correct as standard, right? Essentially, if that was the case, is this service of need to you? Do you find it a need or no? If yes, would you pay that? If no, why not? It'd be interesting to hear. Thank you for listening. Mine was meant to be a quick, short intro, and I'll welcome any questions you may have. Just shout. I'll hear you.
All right. Asaf,
Yes.
For Pro 1, what sort of website would that be? Would it be a Joomla or a WordPress site, or would it be my own CSS, HTML bespoke?
The system is made to be platform independent. So what that means essentially is, irrespective whether it's WordPress, Magento, Zencard, OS Commerce,
Whatever.
bespoke, it does not matter. The crawler, I don't want to say too much actually on that point. Essentially,
We'll look for the holes.
yeah, there's 2 ways of scan. It's a triple scan system, and it does not matter because what it looks for is actually, I can say this, what it looks for are exceptions in the processes as opposed to the rules. So it doesn't matter what your file system's based on, it will look for the issues.
Right.
So it can be any.
We used to.
It can be any system.
I had a company. It was focusing on SME websites.
Okay.
So we had a reseller hosting account from justhost.com.
Okay.
And before that, we were using GoDaddy. GoDaddy we never got hacked, for 2 years in GoDaddy. But when we moved to JustHost, every second day or every week, our websites were getting hacked.
Okay.
So we moved to our own server, cloud server.
Yes.
And since that day, we never faced any hacking issue.
Okay.
So could that be, is this the only problem with shared hosting?
Right, okay. There are a number of reasons why you can get hacked. One of the reasons, the scenario that you put to me today is one that's assumed, obviously I don't have the facts at hand, but it would assume that when you move to a certain provider of a hosting, you're getting more hacking attempts than you did when you moved away. Now that could be due to a number of reasons. It could be you're on a shared server, it could be the shared IP address. Now that IP address could have been blacklisted. It could be opened, the security on that server may have been lackluster. It could have been that the other people sharing it are just, spamming the hell out of someone else. It could be a plethora of reasons. The idea is once you move to your own server, you can close down options. You can close down SMTP, you can actually secure it the way you want. But what we've found is hacking grows with time. So what essentially happens, just like a Google crawler or a Bing or a Yahoo directory comes, visits your sites, indexes accordingly, there are opportunist hackers. So what will happen is if you're hacked, it doesn't mean that a hacker is necessarily targeting you or your website. What it means is that these crawlers look for, like water, the path of least resistance. If you haven't done your due diligence and haven't locked down every aspect of, even down to the FTP read and write accesses, then it will find a vulnerability somewhere. But essentially what we're finding as a company, as an owner of an agency, is that what customers essentially want, they want to run their business. They don't want to do this. They don't want the hassle. And they hate it because if you are blacklisted, you can lose your indexing on SEO, right? And most people know how long it takes to get SEO organic ranking in the first place. You don't want to lose that. And essentially, what will happen is, if you don't address that, and they go to the developer sometimes goes, well, I'll have to look, I'm not sure what to do, etc. This here, the moment the system picks it up, there's a setting in the control panel. The control panel says, do you want us to deal with it, or do you want to deal with it yourself? If you want us to deal with it, it just comes straight to us. It may even happen that you've been hacked. I hope to God you know, right? But if you've been hacked in the morning, within a couple of hours it's fixed. And you may have been at a meeting, come out of the meeting, and you've seen that I was hacked, unfortunately, but it's been fixed. Now for that, what we're selling is a £97 per annum peace of mind. If you were to go and source that yourself with developers, you won't get it for £97. So that's all we're selling. We're selling a peace of mind and an expert team, and it's replacing the fear factor with an assured process. Does that answer you?
So does that include the cross-site scripting and all that?
It includes, that's the method of hacking. I'm not a developer. Let me ensure everyone, I'm a marketeer. I'm not a developer, but I've been in the field so long, I know how to, I've got a team of who does this work. So I can only go so far technically. But essentially, the cross-scripting that you're saying is the method of attack, right? It doesn't matter what attack. What happens is, when you get attacked, something is left, some level of devastation or something is left at the scene. That is the evidence we pick up on. And if we see, for example, it was cross-scripting, for example, then we'd fix whatever the issue was, and B, what we'd give you is advice of, you need to harden your site, and this was the vulnerability that was caught this time. So please, you can avoid repeat compromises. And then you can go back to your developer and say, look, how do I overcome this so this does not happen again? Yeah? Any other questions?
That's kind of time for questions, but you're going to stick around?
Yes,
afterwards
I'll be
if you
here.
have any questions for us after.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Chris from Get Taxi. Welcome. I've got your slides on.
There's a video link in the...
Is there?
Yeah, have you got them all? Yeah, that's fine. There's a link on the PDF. If you just go into the...
Do you want to do it?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Yeah. Just
We can make that full screen if you need.
Close your eyes, everyone. We'll see how it goes in a second. Okay, have we got a clicker?
Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Chris Lamontagna. I'm head of growth at Get Taxi. Get Taxi, you may or may not have heard of. It's a global taxi app. We're in 32 different cities across the globe. We've just closed our 4th round of funding, which was a $150 million round, taking total funding up to $210 million. So a significant chunk of money. Obviously, the taxi industry globally, that has happened in this industry over the past 4 to 5 years. My role within the company, just to give you a little bit of background, is looking at our geographical growth, but also looking at our user acquisition, our driver retention, new drivers, and kind of our new markets that we could potentially go into. So I think what I want to talk about is a little bit more business focused rather than the technology side of things, but more than happy to kind of answer any questions that you guys have in terms of the tech that actually happens and sits behind what we do as well. But from a business perspective, I think importantly, when you talk about disruptive innovation, you actually got to think about industry. The taxi industry was certainly not my background, and it's certainly not the most glamorous industry, and so necessarily not include maybe 5, 6 years ago actually think about the technology that's actually put in that industry. And that actually is the kind of the starter for the growth opportunity, and how we kind of view it, not just here, but being the enabler for fundamental movement. If you actually think about taxis as a whole, it exists in pretty much every city in the world in some form. Whether it's kind of tuk-tuks in Thailand or kind of piggyback somewhere or whatever you want it to be, people are moving around from A to B. And that actually then begins to give you a fantastic opportunity to really disrupt a massive industry on a global scale. And this is the way we kind of look at it. So what is quite a low-tech industry, we actually try and apply a high-tech solution. So we obviously have a mobile app where you can download, very simple. You cut out a lot of the inefficiencies that once existed in a taxi industry. So all we do is solve this issue of there's someone on the street somewhere looking for a taxi, and there's a driver somewhere driving around actually trying to find that passenger. That is the simplicity of the problem that we're actually trying to solve. Obviously, from a tech perspective, we can go a lot deeper into that. Now, taxis as a whole, like I said, not necessarily a tech-savvy industry. But when you begin applying technology, you get some very, very smart information. Unfortunately, I was going to show you a video, but I can't remember the password. But effectively, on here, we now use huge amounts of data to kind of keep map our, maybe later on I'll probably put this video up. But what this allows us to do is to actually be able to track how vehicles are beginning to move around cities, how passengers are being able to order taxis, where begin to actually overlay this type of information, which for cities, the smart city agenda, for the way we move around, is fundamentally making a change. What's fascinating is that data has always been there. Transparent, see that hasn't. Now we'll be able to see, and again, like I'll put the video on later, I'm sure you'll be able to appreciate some of the really cool stuff that we can begin to do with big data. So it's fine talking about Get Taxi. I'm happy to go into that, but as entrepreneurs or people maybe thinking about their own businesses, is how can you begin to disrupt? And the way we think about it at Get Taxi has been very, very simple from beginning the business. The business is now 4 years old. And it was very much based around the old adage of kind of focus on the user. But now you've got an incredible insight into the user, an insight that we probably haven't had before. 86% of people now have smartphones in the UK. This is a UK stat between 60 and 64. So much so that smartphones now are actually beginning to run everything. There's an incredible study done by Twitter that 68% of people actually have phantom smartphone vibrations where they think their phone is actually vibrating in their pockets. That's quite crazy, really. Begins to think about what is actually using in psychology. But with the smartphone being the enabler, it then actually breaks down again into the demographic of people who you work with. And the information that is actually available to you guys is absolutely incredible. Some really, really interesting stuff about millennials, about Generation X and baby boomers, to really actually think about how you begin to tailor your products. At Taxi, we do a lot of work on millennials. So just in case you haven't, or you're not necessarily aware what a millennial is, someone being born between 1980 and 2000. What's interesting about these people? First of all, first digital natives. These people grew up using social media. Now, it's fundamentally a different thing. For us as a company, it's actually beginning to change a lot. So the traditional taxi company probably wouldn't be present on social media. Now, a lot of our whole complaints and even our CRM to a certain degree is actually all done through social media now. It's a huge shift which many existing taxi companies globally haven't actually been able to to adopt. Equally, they've got, with the first digital natives idea, we're beginning to see people actually change use of behaviour. So again, if we think about the taxi analogy, whereas people used to come out onto the street and actually put their hands up on the street, now we're actually seeing that behaviour begin to change, where people actually stay inside a club, book a taxi on an app and wait for the taxi to get outside. Now fundamentally that's a radical shift for taxi drivers, because whereas they're used to picking people up on the street, they're now seeing taxis just pull up, someone jump in and drive off. So it's changing the way not just the users behave, but also actually the way the supply changes as well. So again, there's some really touching upon some really broad ideas here. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the sharing economy, and I don't need to educate people on what the sharing economy is. But this access over ownership, it's really beginning to transform things, particularly companies who are selling products. Whether it's a SaaS product or whether it's an actual physical product, access over ownership. If you look at the stats from particularly with the millennial population, how this is beginning to shift how companies start to think. If you look at Netflix, who actually started out by selling DVDs and pushing DVDs out, now it's all about reshifting the business model. That happened over 18 months, 2 years, which is a fundamental change in their business. I'm really thinking about how can you tap into the access over ownership type idea, equally within this sharing economy as well. Kind of coming to the end now, I really wanted this to be a little bit more interactive rather than me kind of telling you all about our business. But industry-wise, if you are thinking about startups, I think it's really, really interesting to, when I speak at a lot of different events and I speak to a lot of people, and they come up with real sexy ideas about I'm going to do this really cool startup, which is going to be very cool, particularly in East London. Actually, that seems to happen more so there than anywhere else. Very broad ideas. But if you actually think about these three ideas here, you think about encyclopedias, you think about classified ads, and you think about long distance phone calls. Three pretty unglamorous industries. But when you look at it like that, it's a completely different picture. It's all Google really effectively did, it's all Gumtree effectively did, it's all Skype effectively did. Same with us. We took the humble black taxi, one of the most unglamorous, trust me, I work in it, one of the most unglamorous industries that exists, and actually begin to put that online. And I think my advice for when you're looking at disruption is actually come away from all this nice sexy stuff and get really down into the bowels of industries, into the really messy, mucky stuff, and that's where the smart and the really the big opportunities can come. So I'd love to open up some questions about us or kind of what's behind. Yeah. Do you want to start?
Oh, we've got you well.
It's actually two questions. First one is, what are you going to do with all them hundreds of millions? And the second one is, what was the thing that moved the needle the most in your B2C customer acquisition?
Good. So in terms of funding, it kind of helps that you've got a competitor who's raising billions of dollars. It normally helps to kind of inflate and amplify what you're doing, so probably justification around the type of money that's being invested in the industry, and there is a relative, I don't use the word bubble, but certainly a relative upward curve in terms of the way funding is being allocated. Our kind of expansion plans are very much based around the key markets within globally. Not necessarily kind of a land grab to try and be in every market, but actually understanding where the key markets are and building out our market share. So we're currently in, we're in London, New York, Tel Aviv. We've got our R&D based over in Tel Aviv. We've got a Russia office over in Moscow as well. And I've just completed 6 cities in the UK, so Birmingham being one of them. So we've just completed the rollout to those 6 cities. So it's very much based around the key markets in terms of the way we're looking for expansion. B2C user acquisition. So my role is quite interesting because I don't sit in sales and I don't sit in marketing, so I can push both quite hard. And obviously, traditionally, digital marketing, does have its benefits, but I'm actually a big believer in what you can do in terms of actually creating new hacks. So we created a really interesting product at GetTaxi, which I'll very quickly tell you about. Basically, I was fascinated by the amounts of money that we were spending on digital. It was huge amounts of money, as you can imagine, well funded by a company. But instead, I kind of set myself a project to see actually could we acquire users in a different way. So the way we went about that is really boiled down about who is our user, who is the user, and when do people actually need a taxi app. If you think about it, they're on Facebook and they see a taxi app there. Are they necessarily going to need a taxi right now? Probably not. So we really tried to drill quite deep into this, and the idea actually came to me when I was back in Liverpool, back in Liverpool, shopping with my mum in the local Asda. So this is really innovation at its best. And I saw one of the plastic payphones which connect to a minicab company at the start of a supermarket. You see them in hospitals as well. And it stuck with me for about 2.5 months. I was thinking, we've got to do something with that. So what we actually did, we took it back to R&D and started playing around with a few ideas. And what we did was we built a version of our app on a really cheap Android tablet, which we actually just got from like bottom of the rung Android tablets. Ordered a big batch of these Android tablets and actually gave them out to hotels. I gave them out to hotels, to restaurants, but the key part of that is when people actually needed a car, when people actually needed to use our service, we were there, we were right in front of them. Then we designed a kind of stand to actually hold that, hold the unit in. So there's a marketing play there as well. And it was fascinating the way, as a user acquisition channel, that became a really strong channel for us. So there's now about 1,700 tablets globally. And the economics on it are incredible because we acquire users at such cheap kind of CPI. So personally, I'm very much about how can you maybe rethink different products as opposed to just looking at digital as the main acquisition channel.
Thank you.
Yeah, great presentation. I love the idea. I just wanted to say, obviously you mentioned a lot of data capture that you get from the app.
Yeah.
Do you ever use that in obviously B2B revenue generation? Or?
So we have a B2B product. Very early on, it was the first thing I did actually when I joined the company. We developed a B2B product because if you think of the stickiness of a private user, so now you've obviously got Uber, you've got Halo, you've got Cab, you've got all these taxi apps. What's to stop a consumer having every single app on the phone and booking a taxi at the same time and see what comes first and then just cancel every other one? Now, I'm not saying that actually happens, but what realistically, common sense would say actually it's not a bad idea. So we thought that quite early on, so we actually built a B2B product. So we go out to huge organisations and say to them, okay, you guys are spending X number of pounds on your taxis per year. If you think about travelling employees who are expensing taxi receipts and kind of the cost of the receipt that has to go through expenses and paid back. So what we actually did was we go into a company and we push out the mobile app to all company phones. So you book a taxi wherever city you're going to be in, drops in back in centrally, back into this company account. They have full transparency on it, so when people's taking a taxi 3 in the morning from some kind of shady nightclub, that they can actually see where that's going. It's all very transparent. So B2B is a really strong play for us.
Is that something that Uber also do, or is that unique to you?
Trying to now. Uber kind of are trying to get into that market now.
Yeah.
We were very lucky, very smart business decision early on to kind of have that product.
Is there any way of protecting that at all? Or?
Just by being aggressive and getting everywhere as fast as you can, really, yeah.
We just have just one more question, please.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, thank you.
What's with you, Dave?
Just to be clear, are you using an existing fleet of taxis then, like black cabs, or are you using the Uber model where it's individuals doing their own thing?
So again, when we launched, the way we try and look at things is very local. We're a global company, obviously,
yeah.
But everything's very, very local and
Absolutely.
trying to remain very local. So when we reviewed the UK market, obviously the private hire model, which Uber and other private hire taxi apps apply, is visible to anyone.
Yeah.
However, we decided to go with licensed taxis, purely from sort of Hackney carriage, for a couple of reasons. First of all, from a safety security point of view, so the difference between the driver are Hackney carriages, they study the roads, they're regulated by the City Council, they're CRB checked, they go through safety checks, the vehicles are regulated by the City Council. So from a scalability model, and people called us crazy from using only black cabs at an early stage, but we've just launched these 6 new cities. We were able to do that in 2.5 months, totally remote, because of the ability of using existing taxi companies.
Because I guess that gets you over one of the scare stories of the sharing economy, which is trust, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we've got that level of security there,
Yeah.
and also service. You know, you'd be able to take a cab in London, be able to take a cab in Birmingham, in Edinburgh, in Glasgow. You need to be able to maintain levels of service, and that becomes very difficult when you've got private hire and there's a lot more regulation that you need to kind of be able to jump through.
Right. Thank you.
Great.
Very, very quick one.
Oh.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. Very, very quick. Paul Beckley, I'm the head of ICT for Centro. I've just come around the corner from an open data meeting. So we're a passenger transport executive within the West Midlands. We're seeing an absolute wealth of data. Taxis are a bit that aren't, currently within that data set. It's definitely worth us having a conversation about public transport data and data set hold. There may be something, you're looking at those business models that, we potentially could help with. There's potentially a tie up there.
I'd love to, at some stage I will try and get this video up, I'm sure, when we're all around, but it's incredible to be able to see how people actually move around City, but we'd love to have a chat.
Great.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks a lot.
That's really, really interesting. Thank you to all our speakers. So, if you remember earlier, I said about giving the opportunity just to anyone to have a little pitch. Before we jump on that, I just want to tell you about, as you know, it's Birmingham Digital Week at the moment. We're part of that here today, right in the middle of it. We had a great gaming event here with Creative England on Monday. Tomorrow is Arts Day. If you're following Digital Week, tomorrow is Arts Day, and there's a big all-day event happening at the old library in the Custard Factory from about 9:30. So that's cool. And then Friday is Business Day, and we're actually having a breakfast here in the morning. I'm not sure if we're sold out or not, but you can check it out. Next Tech Wednesday, if you are planning to come, it's going to be the same day, so it's going to be the 3rd Wednesday of April. It's going to be different. We're going to have a big keynote event. We've already sold quite a lot of tickets. Given quite a lot of tickets. But it's going to be just one keynote event from a gentleman who's based in this building called Brian Donnelly, and he is going to deliver a presentation on how he founded and built Constella, is that how we say it? Constella, which was actually a $123 million Silicon Valley startup. It's going to be a really, really good event, so we'll send the details out for that and make sure you get along to that. Right, first pitch, Ian Woolley, who talked to me. If you just want to do it from where you are, that's fine. Just 60 seconds.
Come on, use the mic. I'm going to roll through.
Hi, I'm Ian Woolley. I'm an engineer from a company called Breed Reply, and my minute here is to let you know what, but also the objective of me being here today is to talk to any early stage startups. So, Breed Reply is an advanced incubator for startups delivering IoT solutions. When we use the phrase advanced incubator, what essentially that means is we have three parts to our offering. We invest at sort of seed stage or early stage, towards the top end of the kind of the market, so anything up to probably about £500,000. We then offer a tailored 12-month sort of incubation and support sort of package, where we can provide support in terms of facilities, office space, mentoring, resources. We're backed by a large digital services and consulting group. So we have things like EMC test facilities and software labs and that sort of thing that come as part of that support package. And then the third aspect is, as I mentioned, this big group. We offer essentially an accelerated route to market for startups. If you're in IoT, then your customers are already working with companies within the Reply group. So that's 10 seconds. So essentially, if you're here, you're an IoT sort of based startup, then and you're looking for investment, come talk to me afterwards.
Cool. Thanks, Ian. Thank you. Okay. Quick. You are being timed.
Okay. Okay, my name's Haj. I'm passionate about financial advice. I'm an entrepreneur and a financial advisor. I don't know whether you know, the industry's changed quite a lot, and it's regulated and there are less customers having less choice. I'm passionate about customers having choice when it comes to financial advice. There are many different types of financial advisors out there: restricted, chartered, independent, part of an organisation. Now, when you go online as a consumer to get a financial advisor, usually taking out the aspect of referrals and friends, you go online and what you find is usually it's constraining the market to a few financial advisors who the customer has to pick from, and usually it's a chartered advisor. Yep. So I'm looking for funding, and I'm looking for a team of people who've got skills, and anyone in the room is welcome to approach me and offer their services and put something together. So if that's it, okay, brilliant.
Yeah, whose hand was up first though? You spoke last month.
All right.
You've got to be fair and share.
Stop stealing my time. Hi, I'm Matt from Borrow Club. We are, well, I'll tell you the story. The business started in my garage. I was throwing stuff away, decluttering, and I noticed there was all this stuff on my shelves that I didn't want to throw away because I wanted to use it again, but it was a roof box. It was something I only used once a year. So we created a sharing economy platform. We haven't raised £210 million, we raised £210, and we basically launched that on the 1st of January. We're at the stage now where we're pre-revenue. We're at the stage now where we're getting customers to put their stuff onto our site. But basically it's a website to enable people to share their idle assets with other people in their local community and earn money from that as well. And the sharing economy is growing. It's currently worth, I think, about 9 billion, I think, Chris. In the UK, by 2025, it will be worth 9 billion, and in the world, it'll be worth 250 billion. And you've heard all the stories from Chris and Uber and Airbnb and all those types of people. So that's what we do.
Thank you.
Eat pizza and drink beer.